You can say to us, I experienced a bliss beyond description, but I don't want to do it again yet. That's sort of where you're standing, isn't it? In other words, I experienced a bliss beyond description. It was a relief that I can't even articulate. It was a wholeness. It was a oneness. It was a beingness. It was a worthiness. It was a love that I can't even find words to describe. But I don't want to go there yet. Because you think that means you got to let go of all of this. But think about what we're talking about here today. Not letting go of all of this, just letting go of the parts of this that are keeping you from that. Wouldn't you like to walk into a room knowing who you are and knowing who everyone else is and loving yourself and all of them? Wouldn't that feel sweet? You do it by dreaming more. You do it by taking more walks in the park. You do it by more basking. You do it by making more lists of positive aspects. You do it by playing the wouldn't it be nice if game instead of the wouldn't it be awful if game. You do it by realizing that there is a vortex version of your government that your existing real time in terms of physical reality government will never meet up with. There are too many of you putting too much in the vortex of improvement for any now reality to ever completely catch up with. And when you stand on either side of the aisle or right down the middle and you demand that an organization or a person or a government meet your vortex that you have created, you are asking the impossible. It's not your government's job to morph into something that pleases you. It's your job to spend your time looking at the government that you've created and feeling the satisfaction that will only come when you come into alignment with your version. It's time for you to let your kids off the hook, to let your government off the hook, to let the terrorists off the hook, to let all the people, the room service off the hook. It's time. Room service and terrorists. That's a good combination. It's time to let everyone who's not meeting your expectations off the hook, because it was never their job to meet your expectations. It's your job to meet those expectations, you see. Mm-hmm. So you have to withdraw your attention from the things that don't meet your expectations, as you did in your near-death experience. You have to withdraw your attention in order to deactivate the vibration that holds you apart from who you really are. Mm-hmm. So you say, oh, well, I'll stop thinking about that. Well, you can't stop thinking about that thing that you're not going to think about, because you're thinking about that thing that you're not going to think about while you're thinking about not thinking about it. Because this is a universe that's based on inclusion. In other words, there's no such thing as no. When you say no to what you don't want, it's like saying yes to what you don't want, because there's no yes or no. There's just attention to it, which is always yes. So how does one withdraw their attention from the unwanted, or from the not yet fulfilled, or from the not as good as? How do you withdraw your attention from something? Only by giving your attention to something else. That's all. You just have to give your attention to something else. So it's easy to give your attention to well-being when when you have a death experience and you've completely withdrawn your attention. It's easy to know that completely and to remember it, you see. But when you're here in your physical body, you have to work at it a little bit. And the way you work at it is by first knowing it's possible, and there's no one on the planet that knows it more clearly than you, because you lived it real time and have remembered it vividly ever since. So you know what the potential for that is. Now you have to train yourself thought by thought into the frequency of that, you see. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best things about a gathering like this, is that as you sit patiently listening to us, ranting on and on from our place of knowing who you are, as you listen a little while, you start knowing it too, just for a little while. It's fascinating to observe you listening to leading edge conversation, and there is no conversation on the planet more leading edge than what's happening right here in this room right now. So here we are having this new leading edge experience where we're carving out this new understanding, and you all, so in the vortex, you're getting it real time right now. It's almost as good as being dead. So then you leave here and you try to remember what you talked about. It's vague. It's sort of hard to remember. It just felt so good. I just felt so sure. I just knew that I could do it. I felt it, you see. And so that's really what you're reaching for. Just keep acknowledging when you're feeling it, and try to feel it as long as you can when you are feeling it. And before you know it, you'll have such a proclivity, a vibrational habit of vibrating there, that the other stuff just falls by the wayside by lack of airtime. Wouldn't you like to see the oil bubbling up in that hole in the floor of the ocean and know that it's still all right? Wouldn't you like knowing that? Wouldn't you like knowing that the earth is spinning in its orbit and that the well-being abounds? Wouldn't you like to have such frequent glimpses into the vortex that mass consciousness has created, that you never, ever, ever again worry about humanity, about its survival, about its sustaining, about its existence? Wouldn't you like to know these things, you see? That's who you have to be dead in most cases to know that. But you all have the inside track on that. In other words, you now understand that there is a vibrational world that you can tap into in a knowing way. Wouldn't you like to be like Jesus, who could stand looking at someone who is dripping in illness and so know their vortex version that this version doesn't mean anything? That this version is so temporary, that the knowledge of who they really are and the wellness that they really possess, and that the wellness that they have really created and carved out of life, that's who they are, and just know it so powerfully that when you look at them, they know it too. And because they know it, it must manifest right before their eyes and your eyes and everyone else's eyes, because the illness cannot abide in a vibration that knows that much well-being. Wouldn't you like to be someone living, not dead, living, there is only life, but living. Don't you want to be that, you see? We teach meditation because when you have an effective moment in meditation, you've quieted your mind. And when you quiet your mind, there's no resistant thought. And when there's no resistant thought, you go right into the vortex.
Yes.
But we would rather see you in a state of frisky, or in a state of appreciation, or in a state of being in love, than in a state of meditation. And we teach meditation. People laugh at this, but we mean it sincerely. We teach meditation because it's easier to teach you to have no thought than to have pure positive thought.
Yep.
You give us a really good opportunity to say something in a very powerful way. Now think about it. You had an in the vortex experience. You had a moment in time where you released your consciousness and your awareness of this physical realm and morphed completely with source energy.
Yes.
And even with all of that, once in that alignment, the first thing you wanted to do was refocus back into the physical.
Yes,
Isn't that an interesting thing to acknowledge?
Yeah.
The first thing you wanted was to refocus back into physical, even knowing all the resistance that was possible that was there. So when you begin to think about the idea of releasing thought and re-emerging into non-physical, which is releasing all resistance, isn't it even more an even more delicious thought to think about being fully focused in this physical body and in a state of non-resistance?
Yes.
In other words, isn't it even better than dying?
Yes.
To have practiced your way into the vortex in a really consistent way? It just doesn't get better than to be physically focused, tuned into who you are, and fully focused in a moment in time. So now you like the taste of that, don't you? So what are you going to do about it? Now you have to practice being in the vortex. So meditation is a really good way. You could do it when you go to sleep too, because when you go to sleep, you reemerge into non-physical, but it's not the same. When you meditate, you actually have the visceral sensation of non-resistance. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would practice being in the vortex in any way we could. We would meditate to do it. We would compliment to do it. We would make lists of positive aspects. There is a process that we offered some time ago that it was called the creation box, where you just get a box, something beautiful or something cardboard, it doesn't really matter, but write on the box, creation box, and then write what's in this box is, and then put pictures of everything that is important to you, pictures of blissful walks, and pictures of people in love, and pictures of happiness, and pictures of the things you want to possess, pictures of lifestyles and state of being. In other words, focusing on, as you put it into the box, on the reality of it. That's a powerful way to train yourself in little snatches of time into a vibration of non-resistance. Well, it's just a fast way to do a sort of vibrational reality, because you accept that this picture of this lifestyle that I want to live is a picture and not a reality. But there's something about putting it into the box and proclaiming it as done that for a moment can give you a little bit of a lift. And in time, you'll be able to go back through your box and pull the pieces out of your box and say, that's done, that's done, that's done, that's done. In other words, your creation boxes will come to vivid reality, but we don't want you to create a creation box in order to make a vivid reality. We want you to create a creation box because it's better than dying. For now. For now. We've enjoyed this interaction. It's exhilarating to come together. Exhilarating. Do you understand that word? Exhilarating. It is the most high-flying experience imaginable by us, to come together with those like you who have been willing to expose yourself to enough contrast to expand into enough momentum that we get to ride and be. And then to watch you deliberately finding resonance with that momentum until you're flying and riding and funning right along with us. Can you imagine how exhilarating it is for us to stand in complete knowing of what we know and to speak it out into a room where many are listening, and to watch you again and again receive completely the resonance of what we've offered, and know that you're getting it at every level of your being. There is no satisfaction that is greater than that for us. There is no satisfaction that is greater than for you, who are part of us, to come forth and become more than you were when you were part of us, and then to throw to us that further expansion that you carved out, and then for us to hold that expansion steadily with momentum, and then to watch you come back into resonance with all that we have together become. There is no greater satisfaction in this eternal becoming that we are all a part of. We all make too much of all of this, you know. Life's going to cause you to launch those rockets, and if you care about how you feel, you're going to ride plenty of them. That's about as long as this seminar should be. You were born, you're good, you know what you want. Get happy, it'll come. There is great love here for you. And as always, remain stubbornly, eternally in your vortex.